Welcome to the overview of Fairfax County's Transportation Priorities Plan, our TPP, for fiscal years 2025 through 2030. This presentation provides a summary of the proposed plan, including how it's structured, what types of projects are included, and how funding is being allocated. You'll also see highlights from recently completed projects, major proposals for the upcoming 6 years, and the fiscal outlook guiding those decisions. The goal is to give residents, stakeholders, and decision makers a clear understanding of how the Fairfax County Department of Transportation is planning for safe, connected, and sustainable transportation now and into the future. Here's a quick look at what we'll be covering in this presentation. We'll start with an introduction to the TPP update, then review how the plan is currently structured. We'll look at the financial picture, where our transportation dollars come from, and how those funds are being allocated. Finally, we'll go over proposed projects, some challenges we're facing, and what comes next in the process. Let's begin with a refresher on what the Transportation Priorities Plan actually is. The TPP, or the Transportation Priorities Plan, is Fairfax County's main tool for organizing and prioritizing capital transportation improvements. It includes everything from major road widenings and new interchanges to active transportation infrastructure like sidewalks, bike lanes, and trails, as well as transit upgrades, planning studies, and safety enhancements. Various sources of funding support Fairfax County transportation projects. These include federal discretionary and formula grants such as congestion mitigation and air quality funding. At the state level, we rely on programs such as Smart Scale, revenue sharing, and transit-specific funding like Merit and TRIP. Regionally, funding comes from organizations like NVTA and NVTC and through the regional gas tax. Locally, we utilize a mix of NVTA 30% funds, commercial and industrial tax revenue, general obligation bonds, general funds, special tax districts, and contributions from developers and profits. Together, these funding layers make it possible to advance complex and costly transportation improvements. Let's take a moment to revisit how the Transportation Priorities Plan came to be. The original TPP was approved back in 2014 after 2 years, technical analysis, careful coordination across agencies, and community engagement. It was a foundational moment, setting in motion a more structured, transparent approach to transportation investments. Then, in 2019, the county updated the plan to reflect a major shift in regional funding. At that time, a significant portion of Northern Virginia's dedicated transportation revenue was redirected to WMATA for state of good repair needs. The update responded to that shift and reaffirmed our commitment to long-term project planning. Let's take a look at some of the major transportation projects Fairfax County has completed between 2014 and 2025. The Route 7 Corridor Improvements Project, for instance, widened 7 miles of roadway between Reston Avenue and Jarrett Valley Drive. This project added shared use paths and even a new route for trail users under the rebuilt Difficult Run Bridge. Completed in May 2024, it has already made a noticeable difference in traffic flow, safety, and multimodal access along this key corridor. Next, we have the Route 28 widening project that was completed in November 2023. This project widened Route 28 from 4 to 6 lanes over a 2.3-mile stretch between Route 29 and the Bull Run Bridge. It also added dedicated pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. The result reduced congestion, improved travel times, and safer options for all users in one of Fairfax County's busiest travel corridors. The Springfield parking garage, completed in 2024, added much-needed parking capacity at the Springfield Metro Station. By expanding commuter access to transit, it's helping to shift more people from cars to trains, alleviating congestion and lowering emissions. Then there's the Old Meadow Road pedestrian bridge, which opened in 2022. This bridge spans I-495, connecting residential neighborhoods with Tyson's Corner Center and creating a safer, more direct route for pedestrians and bicyclists. Two more success stories from the past decade. And in 2024, we wrapped up construction of the Monument Drive Commuter Parking Garage and Transit Center. This facility supports park and ride options and boosts regional bus and carpool service in a high-demand corridor. Of course, one of the biggest milestones was the completion of Phase 2 of the Silver Line extension. At a cost of $2.8 billion, this project extended Metro service from Wheelie-Reston East through Dulles International Airport all the way to Ashburn in Loudoun County. It officially opened in November 2022. The Silver Line has dramatically improved regional mobility, connecting workers, travelers, and communities to key job centers and destinations across Northern Virginia. Shifting focus now to active transportation. Active transportation refers to modes of travel that involve physical activities such as walking, biking, or using a wheelchair, and the infrastructure that supports them. The Board of Supervisors has set a goal to authorize $100 million over 6 years to improve bicycle and pedestrian access and safety. So far, $56.7 million has already been allocated to projects, including sidewalks, bike lanes, and safety upgrades. The vision is to fill critical gaps in the pedestrian and bike networks so that people of all ages and abilities can safely get where they need to go, whether it is by walking or biking. Let's talk about funding, where the money comes from, and how it's being used. For the FY25 to FY30 period, the county anticipates about $3.9 billion in total transportation revenue. That includes contributions from state and federal programs, regional sources, and local revenue streams. We're assuming continued support through Smart Scale, NVTA, and other key programs. Notably, we've committed $100 million towards active transportation projects and another $100 million from existing Economic Development Authority bonds. And for the Richmond Highway Bus Rapid Transit Project, we're working towards securing a substantial portion of funding through the federal New Starts program. This slide compares the funding allocations approved in the 2019 Transportation Priorities Plan with what is being proposed for the FY25 through FY30 plan. Overall, total expenses are projected to increase from just over $3 billion in the last plan to nearly $3.86 billion this cycle. The most significant areas of investment continue to be major roadway capital projects, which are proposed at $1.8 billion, up from $1.63 billion. It should be noted that many of these projects include bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Transit capital and operating expenses have grown by over $300 million, from $837 million to $1.16 billion, reflecting a strong commitment to maintaining and expanding transit service. Standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects also receive a substantial increase, with $368 million proposed compared to $219.5 million in the previous plan. Almost $75 million is proposed for projects in the Reston and Tysons areas. This includes developer contributions from several road and service district funds in the area. A $20 million set aside for small district transportation improvements is also included in this plan. Here's a list of major recurring allocations in the TPP. One of the biggest ongoing needs is operating support for the Fairfax Connector, which will require about $40 million per year. We've also begun repaying a Silverline Phase 2 TIFIA loan with annual payments of $13.3 million. Metro's dedicated state of good repair funding obligation adds another $13.25 million per year, and we're allocating $14 million annually to project support, things like design, engineering, and management. Finally, we continue to service debt for the Wheelie Reston East parking garage at $2.4 million per year. Let's look ahead now to some of the major projects proposed for funding in the FY25 through 30 plan. One of the largest is the Richmond Highway Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT project. We are proposing $774 million in funding for this effort during FY25 through 30, covering nearly 80% of its total $980 million cost. We're also targeting high-impact projects like the Frontier Drive extension, the Soapstone Drive extension, additional improvements on Route 7, and Phase 1 of the Seven Corners redevelopment. Each of these has the potential to significantly enhance mobility, safety, and access across the county. But we're also facing real challenges. Due to current revenue constraints, we are proposing to focus revenues on existing projects, except for the $100 million that's set aside for active transportation. We're still feeling the effects of reduced state funding from the General Assembly, which limits our flexibility and makes it harder to fund new priorities. At the same time, costs for all types of projects are increasing due to inflation and other factors. These are tough trade-offs, but we're doing our best to move forward with the resources that we have. So what happens next? First, please take time to review the proposed project list that was included in the meeting handout. This list shows which projects are being considered for funding through FY30. It's important to note that if there are new ideas or needs, they would have to replace an existing project. Additionally, a public meeting will be held virtually on July 16, 2025 at 6 p.m., and the meeting details can be found on the next slide. We anticipate board approval of the proposed FY25 through 30 TPP in fall this year. We've covered a lot in this presentation, and we want to hear from you. Please take a moment to visit the link on the screen to leave feedback. Your input helps shape how we prioritize transportation improvements across the county. Thank you for being part of the conversation and helping us build a more connected, accessible, and sustainable Fairfax County.